Legislative of the town of Vegreville. Thank you for turning my mic on. Probably sounded a little disheveled over there. Before I call this meeting to order, I would just like to take a minute and acknowledge a longtime member of the staff of Vegreville, Norm Warnarski, who passed away on the weekend. Norm was with us for 24 years and a very dedicated employee, and he's going to be really missed by council and everybody in our organization. So our prayers and thoughts go out to Norm's family, and hope that they can get through this really devastating. It all happened in such a hurry. Nobody seen it coming. So sorry to the family. Okay, I call this meeting to order at 3:02, and I would start by motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Curtis makes the motion. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? I hope there's no more deletions. It looks like it could be a week here. Okay, that being said, all those in favor? Great. Next, I'll take a motion to adopt the minutes of our regular meeting. Councillor Bullock makes the motion. Any errors or omissions within those minutes? Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, first up, our first delegation, we have Paul Bullock here. Paul is no stranger to the town of Vegreville. He has been with Inca for a long time, and we've met many times in the last while. And I've asked Paul to come in and just give an update on where their project is going, as they've had some different times with the COVID and a bunch of other stuff over the last few years, and they've sort of changed their business model, and I just would like all council to hear where they're at. So go ahead, Paul.
Sure, thank you very much, Mayor. Before I get into it, is there anyone here who sort of wants a broad overview of what our company does, or is everyone here somewhat familiar with our business model and business plan? Good? Okay. So as the mayor said, the past few years have had some ups and downs. Founding a company about 3 months before COVID is not always the best recipe, but should we have known that, we may have delayed ourselves a bit. But you know, when we first came to Vegreville, you know, our plan was somewhat different than it was now. Our initial plan was to come here, decorticate our fiber, and then export that fiber to a pre-existing automotive manufacturing facility in the United States. Through a bunch of different reasons, that business model became less and less attractive, not only to us, but also to our investors. So we've decided to pivot to an all Alberta strategy, where everything that we envisioned in doing in the United States, in making automotive parts, and think about it this way, you know, we don't make the jacket, but we're the Gore-Tex in the jacket, or we don't make the shoe, but we're the Vibram sole. So we make parts for many different manufacturers and industries that utilize natural fiber composites. So what we've decided to do with this pivot with the Alberta strategy is we decorticate the straw here in Canada in Vegreville as we initially envisioned, but now every single other thing that we do, that value added, is now done here in Vegreville. So we make a bio pellet, which is a injection moldable pellet, and you know, anything in this conference room that's made out of plastic, you know, you'll tap it, it's hard, when you break plastic, it's sharp, and that's because plastic is reinforced with glass fiber. So what we're doing, instead of using that glass fiber, we're using hemp fiber. You know, it's lighter, it's stronger, it's greener, and it's actually cost comparative or even cheaper. So that's the one thing we're going to be making here, is that injection moldable pellet. Another thing we're going to be making is what's we would call a panel product or a bioboard. For example, you know, this lectern here, you know, we could make something like this. Instead out of MDF or even wood, we could make that out of a compressed hemp fiber. So, you know, the markets we're going into are quite broad, but we're focusing mainly on automotive, and then, you know, consumer plastic products, such as, you know, anything that could be injection molded. A Rubbermaid tote, a garbage can, things like that. And then we also have a product that's called BioCore, And that's the inner part of the hemp stalk, and it very much mimics balsa wood, the way we treat it. So that could be made for, sound deadening insulation in a ceiling. It could be made for, like, say, many types of IKEA type products that you'd see. And then it can even be adopted into something such as high tech as a wind turbine blade, the core of that. And, it might surprise many of you to hear, but like balsa wood to this day is used in many things like wind turbine blades, drone wings, rocket wings. So we've adopted developed 3 products that we're going to be entering into the marketplace, all made here 100% in Vegreville, all out of hemp straw. With that pivot to here, I think, we'll be adding more jobs than we initially envisioned. Everything that we're manufacturing here, for the most part, at this time in our business plan, will be exported to the States. Let's see what happens with the way things are going right now, but we've got a plan for that too, so not to worry. I don't know if you've got any questions on where we're at. Very recently, we've just signed an agreement with a investment bank out of New York, and that will be released publicly in the next few days. And they are assisting us in our fundraising efforts to get our business plan up running and hopefully break ground sooner than later to get our operations underway.
I guess my question, Paul, would be local producers or producers in the area. You guys are still maintaining contact with these people? And
yeah, actually, I was just out here a few weeks ago, and I did my rounds, and I met with pretty much all of the farmers that we've contracted to grow with us, and sort of reinvigorated some of those relationships. And we're also still moving ahead with some of the genomics work that we've been doing in breeding a hemp plant that's more suitable for what our uses are. And we've just recently received another grant from the provincial government, thankfully, that's allowed us to continue on with a lot of research and development. We were here at the Initech facility in Vegreville for about 3 weeks decorticating straw, and then the fiber and the herd from that decortication went to Alberta Initech in Edmonton, and we further processed that there, and now it's gone to the States, and it's actually, as we speak, under trials with Toyota, Danimer, and some other development partners that we have.
so, and on your board, Alberta Innovates, their Edmonton facility,
Yep.
has a lot of equipment for producing different types of panels and stuff.
It does. We actually had a call with them this morning. We're scheduling some more trials there to make some very, I would say, complex products. We're even going to be bringing in engineers from BASF from Germany and in the United States who are going to be working with Initech to infuse some resins and high-tech polymers into those board products, and then those will be sent to some of our development partners for further testing. Yep.
Okay, anybody else have anything they want to bring up? Councillor Rudick?
It's nice to see you again here in the town of Vegreville.
Thanks for having me.
I don't know if you've made a tour down to the Prosperity Park, the industrial park that this council and previous council has been diligently advancing and forwarding, and you can see the light standards and the hydrants, and we're ready to welcome several of our first tenants. I guess the portion that we get asked a lot about is how far along are we in, when you talk about breaking ground, how far along are we in the process between finalizing land transfer and all those kinds of things? Some of those might be confidential, but what can you share for those that would be tuning into this meeting in this council?
We're moving forward on a best efforts basis with our fundraising that will enable us to enact our business plan. Unfortunately, it's not it's sort of an all or nothing proposition to get a facility that big, committed to and built. Should everything go according to plan, we would like to break ground this year, and that's what we're shooting for. Those are the targets we've set internally with the company. Those are the targets that we've set with some of our fundraising partners. So we're all working towards that. That's the internal goal.
A follow-up? Like a press conference or something. Okay, go ahead.
I'm just curious what kind of conversations I've read actually the grant that you received from Alberta Innovates, which is great. But I'm wondering how many conversations Inca's been having with provincial government, for example, with Department of Agriculture or Jobs, Economy and Trade, to be able to secure some of the additional funding or the support that might be needed that's outside of the scope of this council, for example, to ensure that the hemp industry is shored up and secured in the Alberta context, which might be even more important given the announcements this morning from the South.
Yeah, unrelated to Inca, I also sit on the board of directors of the Alberta Hemp Alliance, and we're working very closely with government right now to try and advance the hemp industry and get as much eyes on what we want to do and apply for everything we can apply for. Internally as a company, it's not really my department, but we do have 2 people in the company that are in constant contact with the provincial government and different granting and regulatory agencies that can help us, sort of activate our business plan and give us assistance. And we do have awaiting us, once we get a couple more steps, is we were initially granted a $10 million grant several years ago from Emissions Reduction Alberta. That grant is being reinvigorated and we're hoping to see that come back as well. Yep.
Which again, I've talked to a few government officials and they have reassured me that that grant will be there when you guys are ready to roll.
Yeah, that's the indication we've received as well, Mayor. Yeah.
Councilor Curtis.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming today. I guess for me, one of the big questions is you mentioned the transformation of the business, more employees. Do you have any idea of how many more you are looking at having now compared to your initial business?
Yeah, I think initially it would have been, I'd say, 10 to a dozen. I think now, we'll be upwards of 25 to 30 by the time you factor in everything that we're going to be doing here. So yeah, it's hopefully, you guys view that as a strong benefit to the community.
For sure we do. And I guess one other follow-up too is the byproducts you guys have after you decorticate and make your pellets. Is there any use or is there any other businesses come knocking on your back door to use this?
Yeah, so, as I said, we've sort of got earmarked everything that we can produce is going to be exported. But we also know that, I'm not just trying to create a company, I'm also trying to create an industry. So we are going to withhold certain amount of our production for smaller hemp-based companies in Alberta that, say, can't put together, the money that's required to develop the infrastructure to execute their business plan as far as a decortication or processing. So we are going to withhold some fiber and some herd to help those businesses also as well. I don't really see it as competition, as more as co-opetition. Yeah.
That's good. Anybody else? Go ahead, Councilor Bullock.
Yeah, just a question. It's these burns in the back of my mind. How many farmers have you actually, had conversations with in our area or in other areas?
I'd probably say in this area about 25, and then province-wide, Alberta, Saskatchewan, well over 100. Yep.
I know that you were doing a lot of work in the Peace area there for a while. Hopefully that those people are still on board up there.
Yeah, no, I actually just finished sort of a loop of Alberta a couple of weeks ago and sort of met with all the farmers that we'd previously contracted with and those that were looking to sort of expand our contracting with. And yeah, no, reception is good and everyone's excited to put some seed in the ground and grow some hemp for us.
Excellent. Well, okay, I thank you for coming in today, Paul. I know that you guys are finished up with your time here at Alberta Intertech, or do you still have more time that you're going to be using that facility?
No, we'll be back. We'll be back in a few weeks doing some more work. Yep.
Well, maybe we'll get together and have lunch then, and have a chat with Dr. Jan Salaski and see how he's doing.
That sounds like a date. Well, thank you very much for having me. And you've all got my cards there. If you ever have any kind of questions, feel free to pick up the phone or shoot me an email, and I'll do my best.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to keep moving on here. We're going to go to some quarterly reports. Jameson, we're not, the other one is not till 4, right? We are definitely at 4, okay. Okay, so Jorgen, the Utilities Manager, Hussink, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. First on the list will be updating our bulk water system. The strategic goal is to remove the coin boxes and install debit and credit card readers. It's a budgeted item. So far, it's on track. Hoping to start it in October of this year. I want to wait until the farming rush is over for the year. And then all we have to worry about is people filling their cisterns. And I'm thinking if I put out a notice a week ahead of time, it shouldn't be an issue. We've done it before and there was no complaint. As far as I know, there was no complaints, so it's kind of in my mind to do that. Estimated budget of $45,000. At the moment, I'm discussing and researching options with different contractors and talking with neighboring municipalities who currently have a point-of-sale machine. And Kayla and myself already went down to Provost this past week. They have, what we're looking at, they have that in use at the moment. So we got an idea of what we're facing.
So it's always nice to see best practices, what works, what doesn't work, and so we can make some good decisions moving forward, Any questions on that project? I think, waiting until after seeding at least will be good. Keep going.
Okay, next on the list, phase 2 of our lagoon fencing, basically to replace the barbed wire around all the lagoon cells. It's a budgeted item. It's on track. Hoping to start when the frost comes out of the ground. The contractor, he was ready to go like before Christmas already. And I told him, well, the ground is frozen, you might as well wait. So that's budgeted for $28,000. Phase 1 was completed last January of 2024. And again, he's just waiting for the frost to come out and he's gonna start on it.
Great, no questions there, keep going.
Number 3 is our MCC and SCADA upgrade. So it's basically to upgrade the electrical components at our ELRC. That's our main reservoir on the west side of town. It's a budgeted item. We are on track, aiming for completion for fall of 2025. Estimated budget of $279,000. The MCC cabinet itself has been done. That part is complete. That was $95,000 alone. That cabinet was installed in November of 2024. Again, waiting on the contractor for the next steps, and it's to upgrade our system. It's just our systems is obsolete. Everything. It's hard to find parts anymore.
And I've been on the Water Commission for a long time. I've seen a lot of this type of work, and people don't realize that things that can go wrong is background noise in this. And I'm not talking like just the sound. It's vibrations and wavelengths and stuff can really throw a big wrench into all this. And so hopefully that whoever we're hiring knows all this, and it's going to be, because I never seen it coming on some other projects that the Water Commission has done. But when you switch over to this, you could have problems, noise, background noise that is not like a noise, but it can really throw all the electronics out of whack.
A little bit out of balance, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, hopefully we can get under budget on that one. Doesn't sound good. We got a cabinet. I hope there's a little more than just a steel cabinet.
I'll just add, if you don't mind, Jorgen, the project is at 95, we're actually 100,000 right now, and that was we had talked before about the spine of the electrical system, the big breakers, those types of things, and the next phase is more of the controls, having stations talk to each other, and then back to Public Works. So these were sourced and proposed more than 2 years ago, and as we move forward with supply, that we're starting to get a little quicker now, prices do change a little bit as you wait. And if you think you're gonna hold the contractor to it after something's a year and a half old, it doesn't happen. It's just what's reasonable. But at this point, we're anticipating to be right around that number that we're budgeted, the 279. That was CCBF funding, and we're looking at about $13,000 over at this point. So really minor compared to what I thought it might be because of the time it's taking for this project to happen. So financially, we're still considered on track.
And did we get the SCADA equipment in at the pump house too, at the water tower?
Will be part of the project, yes.
Okay. And this real-time SCADA information will be right back to Public Works?
Public Works, our phones, any smart, anything you can do it from. We have a system now for the operator and Jorgen and myself that is remote. We can pick it up on our phones and have a look and see what the pumps are doing and what levels are and stuff, so that helps a lot. But this will get the stations talking to each other better and quicker.
Excellent. Any questions on that project? Okay, keep moving.
Next on the list, pump house valves. So that was to replace the two main water valves at our pump house. That was a budgeted item. That was completed in October of 2024. The estimated budget was 57,000. It came in, all total, came in at 56,544. And again, it's completed.
How did we stop the water from flowing out? Did we blow out?
Valves now, we can do that.
Did we have to put a balloon or something into the
Oh,
inside?
and the inside, yes. I had to get two balloons. We had to get divers in there and had to put two balloons in. Or it all came out.
Let her go. Excellent. Well, that's good. It's done. It's on budget. Perfect.
Okay. So now the rebuild of pump 2 at our main sewer lift. That pump has come to its end of life cycle after 15 years. It's a budgeted item. It was shipped out in January of 2025 here. I'm just waiting on a timeline for parts and repairs. That was budgeted for $41,000. Yeah, waiting to hear from the repair company, and then when it's done, it can be installed. I'm hoping.
Right now, we're on a backup pump there.
This one will be replacing an existing one. And then that existing one will come out, and then that'll be shipped away next year to be repaired, and then that'll be a spare.
Hey, how many horses are these pump?
75, 100, I believe.
Okay, well, it's be nice to have a repaired, rebuilt, sitting on the shelf. It would be really good, so.
It's kind of an important part.
Yeah. Okay, so what else is new in your department, Jorgen?
Jamie, our operator, completed her level 2 course for water distribution and wastewater collection. Just waiting on a date for exams. She is at the mercy of Alberta Environment when it comes to writing exams. We are training the Village of Andrew staff on chlorine and bacteria sampling procedures. They've had a very high turnaround on staff lately. So by the time you get them up to speed, they're gone, and you got to start all over again with a whole new crew. So we're slowly getting them up to speed. We attended the commissioning of the standby generator for Lavoie Water Distribution Plant. The county, after however many years, finally got a standby generator for their water plant. Previously, when the power would go out, they'd have no water, period. Everything would stop. So now this will take care of that. And currently, as far as I know, we have 3 meters to replace on our stop list. We're just trying to contact the homeowners to make a date and time.
Go ahead, Councillor Bullock.
Oh, that's good to hear about those meters. I just got a question about the meters and stuff. I've noticed on billings, certain billings, it's estimate. You see estimate on the billings coming through. And I was just wondering if some of those that are estimates that they're not getting picked up by the readers. Is that why it's estimated?
Possible, yeah.
So what's a typical length of time that those, I guess it's hard to tell, everyone's different, I suppose, but I've noticed even on my own bill, there's been months in a row with just estimates.
I don't know what, I think it's a month before it does an estimate, or could be less, could be more. That part is beyond me.
Okay, all right.
Director Saskia.
That's a corporate services question. So
Fair enough.
the system estimate is what happens when there is no meter read. So that's when we are looking at the stop skip list and making our way through that. As you know, we've had quite a few turnovers in utility clerks in the last 2 years. So Megan is doing a fantastic job, and we are getting to the bottom of several of these issues that have been estimates, system estimates, or zero reads. So the system estimate is based on, if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on this, but I believe it's the last 3 months of consumption once there is no consumption. So some accounts are set up to do those system estimates, and so then when we get the actual read, there'll be an adjustment that comes through on one of those accounts. So those are the accounts that we're targeting second. The ones that we're targeting first right now are the ones that are having zero reads, so they're not even eligible for a system estimate due to constraining factors of how the system was set up. So we have had different situations, like every single one is slightly different, but we do have a letter coming through later today where it was zero read, the meter was broken, so that's the problem. So the meter was broken, not reading, so those were that bad batch of meters that we had were just not reading anything. And so if there's been 3 months of zero and then there's trying to be a system estimate, it's just zero. So those are the ones that once a new meter was installed, they are catching up on anything from the new meter until now if that new meter wasn't set up in our system. So those are 2 situations that we can have. So if there is the bad batch of meters where system estimates weren't done, then they've gotten the zero reads, we install the new meter, and then it just starts taking consumption from that point of install.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Rudick. I think she's gonna ask, well, we're almost caught up. We only have 3 on the list to replace.
I was gonna say, yes, I'm glad to hear that we're getting to the point where we've only got 3 left to replace. But I'm wondering, I'll direct this to Director Saskew. In terms of the zero reads, what kind of percentage are we talking about? Do we know how many of our billing, I guess they're consumers, it would be both non-res and residential users, would be fitting into these either first priorities that are getting zero reads or the second priority that are working on the 3-month estimation of use?
The zero reads, like I said, I don't have this right in front of me, but the zero reads would be the one that there's 3 where they're just not reading at all. So there's only 3 left of those to investigate, and then we're gonna start moving on to the system estimate ones as to why they're estimating and do those also need to be replaced, because that could be a meter that is down, but because it's system estimating, once we know the new read, we'll just start going from there. And then if it was something where the meter was installed and still working, and if there is a correction that needs to be made, maybe something got disconnected. There are times where the meter is installed and correctly working, but it's not connecting to our program. So we have a meter read program, and then we have a data program on our side of things. So if a decimal spot is in the wrong spot, for example, if the integer's in the wrong spot, the reads that are coming through every month they're producing a zero value. So if Jorgen goes and does a meter read, write down the actual number, we bring it back and we connect it to the actual proper integer on our side of things, all of a sudden all of the reads pop through and read properly. So there's so many different examples of how things can, so to say, get jumbled if they're not set up correctly. But in the zero read, often it's the meter was down and there's a new meter needs to be installed, and then we start going from there.
So maybe I'll go the other way then too. Thank you for explaining that further, because I think the letter that we're receiving later gives an indication of some of the challenges that have been sort of carrying forward. Do we have an idea of how many are actually being delivered correctly? Like, do we have an idea of how many reads are actually working and folks are receiving the accurate billing? Do we know that?
Well, that's in the 3,000 range, right? Like, we have however many tax rolls that have.
So the majority of consumers are receiving accurate billing.
Correct. And at one point in time, when I first started here, there was a very large percentage of people that were either getting zero reads, no reads, or a system estimate. So it's been a long process, but I feel like we're finally starting to see the light. We haven't had, like the letter we're referring to later, we haven't had many of those letters, because obviously when people get those big bills after the fact, due to legitimate consumption that we can verify on our side, It's not nice to get those. It's not nice to get those big bills because you've been getting 0 reads for a period of time. But in those instances where it's the meter has been reading, but the connection between Jorgen's system and our system has been missing just by either something's been put on the wrong route number or a decimal place on the meter number isn't there, the meter still has all that data. The meter is a self-contained unit and it has all of that data that we can test. It's just the meter communicating with that second system that sometimes is awry. So those are the ones that we've had those big bills come up where we correct everything and then all of a sudden they have 200 cubes of consumption.
Looking forward to hearing if that meter still had all that data.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Bullock.
Yeah, the Manager Houston, I just want to circle back to the first one, the update bulk water system. And you said you're just gonna roll this out later
Yes,
and stuff like that. Just, is there a notice at the pump station
Not
saying
yet.
that this is gonna roll out?
not yet. I'll be doing that probably August, September. And I'm hoping, like I said, hoping to do this in October, once the big rush is over. And once I put that notice out there, that should give the winter for the big farmers that come in, that usually come in, that should give them the winter to come in and get questions and stuff like that, right?
Right on.
Not that they're fighting with it and have questions all at the same time, right?
Okay. But do you have anything else?
Nope, that's it for me.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your quarterly update, and we'll look, hopefully with those 3 water meters can get in, and
Yeah.
we'll keep that, like, I know we're getting there. It's a slow process, and I know when staff turns over here, and then it's always constant. There's always some little things that fall through the crack, but I know we're getting there, so it'll be successful pretty soon. Thank you very much. Next up, Director Saskew, you got a lot going on here. Okay.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a respect in the workplace policy. So this is draft HR 4002, respect in the workplace policy. The Town of Vegreville respect in the workplace policy was scheduled for review and required some changes to ensure compliance with the revised OHNS legislation. Administration is presenting 3 documents for council's consideration. The first is the revised policy. Section 6 policy review has been added to set requirements for when this policy must be reviewed in compliance with the OHNS code section 390-72. Item number 2 is revised HR 4002-1, respect in the workplace procedure. A procedure statement has been added to provide context for the procedure. And section 3, support resources, has been updated to reflect the town's current benefits plan. And item 3 is the revised respect in the workplace complainant's report. A privacy statement has been added to ensure that the complainant understands their confidentiality obligations as a complainant and the privacy obligations of the town as an employer. Sections 8 to 12 have been added to be completed by the investigator. Included in this information in the form ensures the complainant is aware of the next steps and after the complaint has been submitted. This also ensures that each complaint is investigated with the same process. This proposed policy, procedure, and complainant form has been reviewed by senior management, human resources, and our internal health and safety auditor. Administration has also provided the town council with the current policy, procedure, and complaint form for cross-referencing purposes. There are no immediate financial implications for approving this policy. Ensuring compliance with this policy mitigates risk and maintains our core standard, lowering our WCB rates. And upon approval, the updated policy will be shared on the Town of Vegreville website. Managers will be responsible for communicating the updated policy to department employees. So options are that Town Council may accept the proposed revisions to HR 4002, respect in the workplace policy, and approve the policy at the next council meeting. Or Town Council may review the policy further and discuss the proposed revisions at the next ledge meeting on March 18th before approving the policy.
Okay, thank you. Discussion. Start with, over here with Counselor.
With me?
Sorry, I thought you were going.
No, you're quicker.
Okay. Thank you for sharing this. I'm glad to see that it's being updated to ensure that we're in compliance with OH&S standards, because there is greater and greater evidence that some of the supports that employees, not necessarily in our organization, but across the province, are accessing are due to challenges in their workplace, and we want to ensure that we continue to be an employer of choice. My question would be around the form. I understand that some of the timelines and the second part, your number 3 that refers to the form sections 8 to 12, definitely give timeline and an outcome indication. So if employee submits a complaint, that there is a very deliberate and recorded set of events that happen afterwards. My question is, up to this point, has this been used? I obviously you can't be specific. I don't want to give away information, but I wanted to make sure that we're providing access to somebody to be able to levy a complaint if there is a concern. It is kind of a long form. It's 8 pages long, not only to be filled out by the complainant, but I just want to make sure that we're striking the balance of being able to hear concerns and answer them, and also make sure that there is a string of consequences as well as support for the complainant. So it's a delicate balance.
Yes, actually, we have, the forms have been used in the past. What's different now is the form is one complete form. In the past, complainants would fill out just their portion, and we would move into the investigator's side, and then the investigators had a different set of forms. Now, by doing so, this falls in line with OH&S regulations. It makes it's easier for us to look things up after the fact, because now it's all in one. And it actually, once it's complete, then we have the full story in one spot, versus the way we have been doing it. And it has been working the way we were doing it. This is just making it a lot easier from the get-go.
Thank you.
Councilor Bullock.
My question would be, about the investigator. Who's usually the investigator? Is it the same investigator throughout every department, or is it someone that oversees the whole departments?
It depends on the complaint. We've done investigations by using same department investigators, different department investigators. We've actually gone so far as to bring in external investigators, but again, it depends on the severity of the complaint.
Okay, so, and they're all gonna follow this one form?
Yes, it's very similar to what they've been following in the past. Like I said, now it's just attached.
Okay, thanks.
So, options 1 or 2? Councilor Berry says 1.
I'm actually okay with that. Believe it or not.
Okay. Any thoughts down there? Wow, good job. Made it the first test of that new policy. Perfect. Well, let's try another one then, if that worked out so good.
I have here draft HR 4003, town-owned vehicle use policy. So this one also falls under corporate services, as it applies to more than just the fleet department. So this includes firefighters, any other people or departments using vehicles. So HR 4003, town-owned vehicle use policy, was scheduled for review. Senior management has reviewed this policy and is proposing a few revisions. The department responsible for this policy is being updated from infrastructure planning and development, as this is human resources policy, and any concerns with this policies are most relevant to corporate services. A definition for non-employee has been added. Our current policy states that no one other than a town employee may ride in a town vehicle. The addition of this definition is an amendment to section 5.8 of the draft policy, allowing for more flexibility for town employees to transport passengers for work-related purposes. Other additions are new to this policy, but not new to practice. For example, the new draft policy now states that employees operating town vehicles must complete the employee acknowledgement, that employees must provide a signed provincial abstract consent form and have a driver's abstract completed annually, and that all employees must ensure vehicles are in proper working condition and report any deficiencies or damage to their managers and municipal services. There's no financial implications to adopting this policy, and upon approval, the updated policy will be shared on the Town of Vegreville website. Managers will be responsible for communicating the updated policy to department employees. Options are that Town Council may accept the proposed revisions to HR 4003, Town-Owned Vehicle Use Policy, and approve the policy at the next council meeting. Or option 2, Town Council may review the policy further and discuss proposed revisions at the next ledge meeting on March 18th before approving the policy.
Okay. Let's start with conversations. Councillor Bullock.
On the second attachment, 5.7, provided approval is received from their director, all employees authorized to attend courses and conferences shall have the option to use town vehicles and only for town business. So a question of that, if they don't take a vehicle or weren't authorized to take a vehicle, are we covering their expenses as in mileage on their vehicle?
That would be correct.
Okay, all right. That's all I had on that.
Okay, all employees must ensure vehicles are in proper working condition. Okay, the part where report any deficiencies or damages, well, that's pretty much within everybody's capability. Is every employee of the town that we have today capable to ensure that all vehicles are properly working condition? Go ahead.
I did, when I was looking at that one, I was wondering too. So I guess my question would be, is there a standardized, let's say from Fleet, do they have a pre-trip for them to fill out? Basic pre-trip that any driver could fill out, whether it comes to lights or anything like that. You can't expect them to be a mechanic, but you should be able to expect them to look at tires, look at lights, stuff like that, like a pre-trip.
Go ahead, Dale. Director Lefebvre, sorry.
There is pre-trips for anything that requires a commercial vehicle inspection, which is a good portion of our fleet. Even the half tons with our summer staff, Public Works has a checkoff sheet, so they're checking some things out in the truck before they get rolling. And the intent of it isn't that they repair the truck, but that they report it either with a form, which is becoming old school, where we submit, but we have a program that they can get on their phones or whatever, type in the unit number, here's what the issue is, boom, it goes straight into to our program, and then the mechanics pick it up from there and prioritize when it's going to be repaired. So,
Just to back up that, so when they're training, like a new person and stuff, they're shown how to use this, obviously, I would think.
every employee that starts with us, whether it be a recurring summer student or a new employee, goes through an orientation process, and part of that process is everything, the shop, the safety, the fueling, the operation, everything that we do. Your orientation can take up to 2 days when you start to get through it all.
Yeah, that sounds good. That's
Okay, Councillor Rudick.
Just in reading this before the meeting today, it doesn't, to my reading, vehicle isn't described other than a town vehicle. So does this cover, we've had instances in the past that has made this policy important for us to have in place, include other than our trucks or traditional vehicles? Does it include anything that is a conveyance, like any of our other equipment or machinery, or any of our grass cutting, or any of our other pieces of equipment that wouldn't be a traditional vehicle that drives on a road necessarily, but our heavy equipment and or smaller pieces of equipment?
I'm not understanding the
I guess
question,
my-
sorry.
Yeah, and I guess my concern or question would be, this explains when, how, and in what circumstances town-owned vehicles would be used. I'm not certain that it covers anything other than a traditional truck or a car.
All this is meant for is passenger vehicles.
Okay.
All of our equipment, it is used for town use. The only other time that I have seen our equipment used for town use is if it's rented out or permission has already been given by council.
Okay. Just wanted to be very clear that it's only passenger vehicles in here. Thank you.
So go ahead, Councillor.
Just had one question. Where do you, for the definitions, what do we consider a summer student? Would that be the part-time or the casual? I just wondering where they fall under definition-wise.
It would be either or, part-time or casual would,
Okay, so that's where we catch our summer student. Okay, thank you.
So this policy only deals with vehicles that are driven on the road.
that would require a valid operator's license.
So anything else, any other piece of equipment that somebody's operating, they've already been approved by their level of equipment operator, is that correct? Okay. Okay. So again, options. Nice. Don't be like,
There was 4 of them already. One's fine.
everybody's vote counts here.
Okay, 1.
This is not Russia.
I'm leaving it.
Okay, we're gonna go. Well, we'll see this on the 18th. Thank you very much. You got through both of those. That worked out very well for you, I think.
It did.
Now, one that's a little controversial,
I was
but
gonna say, now the fun one. Are we ready? Do we have time?
we certainly do, yep.
Okay. Okay, so I have here a letter from Olson, Rao and Moore, dear sirs and madams, regarding utility billing. So we would like to bring to your attention a recent issue we had with your utilities department in hopes that other more vulnerable citizens of the town of Vegreville do not face a similar unexpected financial burden. On February 6, 2025, we received an invoice from the town of Vegreville indicating that we owed $768 for unbilled water consumption for the months of August 2024 to January 2025. This came as a surprise as we diligently attend to monthly payment of our utility bills to the town. We made an inquiry as to the basis, i.e. actual meter readings for the period for the 200 cubic meters that was alleged used by our office of 5 people over a 5-month period. We were supplied with conflicting and confusing graphs that seemed to indicate usage on days our office is closed and no usage on days that we are open. Several further inquiries and requests for clarification were made by us and our landlord in an attempt to better understand. The only factual clarification we eventually received, which even remotely seemed to address the confusion, was a confirmation that 200 cubic meters actually represented usage from September 2022 until January 2025, a 29-month period. We did not, however, receive a further breakdown of those months that would allow us to verify what seemed to be an arbitrarily selected and perfectly round figure of 200 cubic meters. Despite our frustrations with the town's repeated failures to provide us with data that would substantiate the unexpected bill, we have decided to simply attend for payment in full. We would note, however, that we absolutely have no confidence or certainty that the future arbitrary bills will not be addressed by the town, given the complete inability to point to a specific, clear set of data which supports the usage they decide to invoice. Clearly, if they are willing to bill us for over 29 months of unbilled usage resulting from the town's own failure to properly read meters, we cannot rely upon a hoped-for spirit of accountability that might otherwise be expected of municipal departments. We ask you bring this issue to council's attention so that other taxpaying citizens are not faced with the same unexpected arbitrary use of authority by municipal departments. In these days of economic uncertainty, a $750 plus utility bill could mean the difference between a family's ability to pay their rent or purchase groceries for their children. Your thoughtful and attention to this matter is appreciated. Yours truly, Olson, Rao and Moore, per Kirsten.
Okay, so are we gonna see this letter on the next council meeting?
Does it need to go to council?
Because I can't make a motion here or to receive and file this.
We can bring it down to Monday's meeting for receive and file, yes.
Okay. I did compile,
Okay, well, I would imagine you'd have a rebuttal to this.
I have some pages. Okay, So this was compiled by my staff and then gone over with me because I was involved in parts of this, but not all of it. Like it originally originates, normally the complaints originate at the utility department and then filters up through the finance manager and then it trickles up to me. So I wanted to make sure we were all encompassing on this. So we would like to present the following details regarding the utility billing for Olson, Rowe and Moore to ensure that all relevant information is fully communicated and understood. So in early January, it was brought to our attention that they had not made payments for water consumption since September of 2022. The issue stemmed from the installation of a new meter, which did not align with the meter number recorded in the town of Vegreville system. So a new meter was installed in 2022, September of 2022, and then the meter number that was put on the town of Vegreville side of things was not the same number. So because that meter number and our meter number did not jive, there is an administrative error for that point of it. As I said before, the meter itself contains all that data. So the meter is like a mechanical, if I'm not mistaken, Director Lefebvre, it keeps track of how many cubes of water have run through that meter. So the second that the meter is connected to our system, the next read will say what the last read was, which was 0, until the new meter read, which is actually ended up being 200.7 cubes. So it wasn't specifically 200. So this is where we came from that. So we noticed they were getting no reads. They've had 0 consumption on their water bill since September of 2022. So every single utility bill they received had 0 consumption of water. And Megan, when she was investigating all these 0 consumption reads, she identified this one account. Jorgen went and we prepared a work order. Jorgen went and did a manual read. And then that's when we updated the meter number in our system and it pulled the 200.7 cubes through. So despite the discrepancy in meter numbers, it is important to note that in accordance with bylaw 06-2020, line 14.3, we have a line in there saying the consumer remains obligated to pay water consumption as reflected on the invoice. In this instance, the invoice issued by the town indicated 0 water consumption since September of 2022. However, the consumer's obligation to pay for water usage during this period still remained. Line 14.3 specifically states, consumers receiving water service pursuant to the provisions of this bylaw shall pay the required charges, levies, and fees set out in Schedule B, which includes the cost of installation and removal of the water meter, water consumption, and a monthly fixed charge per water service. And so what they were paying for in all those months was just the fixed charge, not the actual consumption. So on February 12th, our utility manager conducted a manual meter read, which registered the 200.7 cubic meters of water consumption. Since no charges had been applied for water usage since September of 2022, when the meter was installed, the town's billing system issued an invoice for the entire amount, which reflects water usage for that period. So September 2022 to January 2025, which averaged approximately 7 cubic meters per month. Following discussions with Olson, Rowe and Moore, we provided them with data collection graphs based on the meter readings. So that's what they were referring to with the graphs in the original letter. These graphs were generated using our MasterLink data collection system, which is the program that operates on the utility manager side of things. The one limitation to that, as we have seen in past, is we can only go back so many months. So we were only able to provide back until September, the readings for those graphs. So these graphs, we've seen them before. So we were only able to give them from September, what date did we have? And we aren't able to go back any further. August 18th onwards. So we aren't of 2024. So we're not able to go back.
Within those graphs, is there days when they're not even open where there's a lot of usage?
No, so in the graphs, like there is a level. So some days there are zeros, but if you notice, the one that has just the one tick on the day that maybe they were closed, it could have been, they were so close to the next integer, and then on a Saturday, the toilet, you know how sometimes the toilet will run just that little bit? If that amount of water was enough to flip them to the next integer, there would be a reading on that day. So like there's only so many decimal points in this system. So the days that there are 0 reads, the company days on each side are also quite low compared to like an actual, like these days I would assume their business is open. So this one here, there's a 0 read, that must be a weekend, but this one has just a little bit. It could be, I'm not sure if they have cleaners, I'm not sure what they are, but it could just be the toilet just barely ran or the tap just barely dripped and brought it through to the next integer to show a read. So that is that part of it. And then in the course of our discussions with them, we undertook the following actions. Recommendation to consult a plumber. So initially that big read, we don't know right at the start. So we can't pull these data logs as on the corporate services side. So when someone calls in and say they have a huge bill for 200 cubes, we say first and foremost, call a plumber, because you might have a leak. And as we've seen in some of these other instances that have come up before council, every day matters because the consumption that they have every single day matters. So they confirmed they don't have a leak, and then that's when we started digging in further. It's like, okay, you make sure you call a plumber or check if you have a leak. We're gonna start doing our due diligence on this side. In the event that they had a leak, calling and checking for leaks immediately would save them cubes and cubes and thousands, like could be thousands of dollars every day. Not thousands, hundreds of dollars every day. We also did additional meter reads. The utility manager conducted 2 further meter reads to verify the accuracy of the consumption data. And then there was a site visit on February 19th. So a site visit was conducted, which included the following people. So the finance manager, the utility manager, and the utility clerk. So this was on the day that the utility manager was showing our new utility clerk around, and they made this specific stop to show them exactly how he investigates if there is a work order for high consumption. So the property owner was also there, so Luke Miller was there during the site visit. The meter was manually read to ensure its proper functioning, and discussions regarding future steps were held with Mr. Miller. So what we did with this 200.7 cubes, we did a prorated billing adjustment. So acknowledging that the water consumption billed reflects usage from September of 2022 through January of 2025, the town of Vegreville prorated the charges to apply only the appropriate utility rates for each year. So we actually prorated it based on like what the dollar for
Cube was,
water cube was, as well as we have that portion of our bill that is related to sewage. So if it's up to 17 cubes, it's part of the flat fee, but then after 17 cubes, we actually have a prorated amount that adds to it. So by adding 200 cubes onto one bill, they would be getting that increased sewage fee, which is also not fair because they did not have 200 cubes in 1 month. So we adjusted that. We also removed any outstanding charges. So all late charges, fees, and like the sewer charges related to the water consumption from 2022 on had been removed. And then we did follow-up communication. So a follow-up email was sent to Mr. Miller, including the revised invoice and relevant documentation. So moving forward, we recommend that they monitor their water usage as reflected in the monthly bills to identify any potential differences once a baseline or average consumption is established. So as of right now, with the visits that we've done and the manual reads of the meters, we do have confidence that the meter is working. They were pressing for us to replace the meter, but we don't see anything on our side of things to say that the meter isn't accurately working. And now that we've fixed the number on our side of things, the reads have been coming through.
Okay, I'm gonna stop this conversation right there, and when we resume back, we'll get to the snotty letter here about where we're at there.
Stay tuned.
Okay, this time we have a presentation that'll be in a closed session from a different time zone. So I'd like to, Councillor Berry makes the motion that we go to closed session. All those in favor? Carried. So that is at 4 o'clock. So we'll shut down, and for those who are listening right now, we will be back as soon as we're done this presentation for this meeting.